There are variations in the layout and format of a codebook, but with very few exceptions, they all have the basic vital information topics. As the dailies start to flow into picture editorial, the picture assistant and apprentice are responsible for building the codebook. To the beginner, today's digital technologies often lull the new filmmaker into a false perception that this kind of preparation is no longer necessary. If anything, it is more important now than ever. Never act like the project you are working on is the only film in the world. You will be wise to adopt the heart attack principle. If you have a heart attack and cannot continue on the project, the next person can step in and instantly understand and know where everything is and what all the entries mean. Always list the show title on every page. You will list the date of the dailies, the day the footage was shot. You list each scene, take number and angle designation. If you are shooting with multiple cameras, you list the camera that shot the piece of film in parentheses, A camera, B camera, and so forth. You can list a short note that may be helpful or alert the editors of a particular issue with the footage. You list the camera roll number. This is extremely important when you need to access the negative for opticals or other reasons, and you have to sift through hundreds of thousands of feet of film rolls with great speed. This is the color-coded number printed on by the picture editorial department. This number is logged by the manufacturer and is essential should there be any stock batch issues. The key edge code is the number that editors and negative handling craftsmen depend on to sync the positive work print back to the original camera negative source. You list the sound roll number. Strangely, many picture editorial crews who are not seasoned, experienced veterans often fail to list this number. Believe me, it is really important and can make the difference between efficiency and wasting valuable dollars in researching obscure audio sources. In large, bold numbers, the built daily roll is given a numerical number. Because the process has evolved through flatbed editing film systems, this is often called the ChemRoll number, named after one of the flatbed editing machine manufacturers. The second number is the roll footage count. An average day of 35mm dailies can amount to 3,000 to 5,000 feet of film. Therefore, each roll has a different thousand count designation, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. A feature 35mm camera most often uses 1,000-foot camera loads. There you go. No daily roll will exceed 1,000 feet. Film boxes in picture editorial are supplied by the laboratory or bought from a supplier are made to hold 1,000-foot rolls. So here's a typical page from a codebook. In fact, this is an extract from Dante's Peak. The entire roll is easily contained on one page. All of the vital data and numbers that will assist the army of editors and craftsmen that will, at one time or another, handle or have to research and access this footage have everything they need to do their job efficiently. In today's world of digital intermediates, this kind of detailed attention to notes and codebook protocols is more important than ever. It is important to be very predictable when you are tackling the complex and challenging job of dialogue editing. There are reasons why we do things the way we have done them for years. Tactical strategies are very much a military discipline. The guide track comes first. The dialogue editor will then create and set his primary dialogue channels. Industry standard is to name them Dialogue A, Dialogue B, Dialogue C, etc. Ultra-low budget strategies may require the dialogue editor to also cut and include the ADR in the same session as production dialogue. This technique is not used in feature film work, but is used in non-feature film work, and on occasion when the budget just demands the production dialogue as well as the ADR process to be cut together. You will create one or more tracks known as P-effects. These are production sound effects that are good and worthy of being salvaged for the soundtrack. You have to isolate these audio events in their own channels so they can be easily bussed over to the sound effect predub as well as preserved for the foreign M&E version later. The smart dialogue editor never gets rid of anything. Anything can and has happened on a re-recording stage, and sometimes the best laid plans of strategies are changed after the director finds his ADR disappointing and wants to retrieve the production version. More often than dialogue editors would like to admit to, this X-dialogue track serves to hit the director and producer up alongside the head with an invisible 2x4 to remind them of what was there, and sometimes becomes the CYA, or cover your ass asset, that might even deter legal ramifications. This is a basic blank Pro Tools session. You have just made a number of monaural tracks, and check the session setup window to make sure that the frame rate and timecode settings are correct. Note that each newly created track has a default name: Audio 1, Audio 2, Audio 3, etc. Tap twice on each track header name and rename each track the way you want them. As we spoke of before in Dialog Track Protocol, you will want to rename them Dialog A, Dialog B, Dialog C, Dialog D, P-effects, X-dialog, and so forth. The number of dialogue cut channels you will want to allow for will depend on just how complex your reel is. Remember, almost all dialogue re-recording mixers do not want the dialogue spread over too many channels. They prefer them on fewer channels, tight and well organized. If you are working with OMF, Open Media Framework software, whereby the picture editorial department has output the picture editor's cut audio track via OMF technology, your basic Pro Tools session will be created by the OMF software as it decodes the OMF file and builds your production audio media files and assembles the cut in exactly the same way the picture editor had created. Remember, it is critical for the picture editorial team to factor into the output setup parameters the need for how long the audio file extension should be, that is, the audio material before and after the actual cuts are built into the OMF output. It defaults to 0. Picture editorial must factor in how many seconds of extra to include. The dialogue editor will want all that he or she can get, and with the price of drive storage becoming increasingly affordable, there is no reason to deny the dialogue editor of any or all the material that can be had. The QuickTime video file will be imported under the movie heading Import Movie. This image can be output via FireWire to be seen on another video monitor or projected onto a screen via a digital video projector. If you do not have another monitor, you will find yourself having to move the image that will show up on top of your Pro Tools session around and around as you get your editorial work done. Before commencing any track breakout preparation, take a few moments and perform a bounce to disk. Bounce the entire OMF track as a single copy audio file. This becomes your guide track. This newly created guide track is placed at the top of your dialogue session. Lock it in place. You do not touch this. It is, in fact, a roadmap of sync and a valuable protection should you somehow knock any of your dialogue tracks out of sync as you go along. It also becomes an invaluable waveform guide for the ADR editor to waveform sync match as he or she cuts the ADR dialogue lines against the original production track. You create more monaural dialogue tracks, as we spoke of earlier, and name each track Dialogue A, Dialogue B, and so forth. Now begins the tactics and strategies of good dialogue editing. Breakout cuts based on the same scene take angles so that ambience shifts will remain in the same channels, not by characters as the beginning amateur editor tends to try and do. You need to split out and separate the various angles based on the position of the microphone, as that angle will have a unique and special ambionic colorization, one angle favoring a window more than another. Angle Baker may hear more hum from a nearby noise source than Angle Charlie will. Keep these angle issues together. If you put them on various channels, you will only spread the noise issues over multiple channels that the re-recording mixer will have to stop and reset the parametric equalizers to fix the problem each time. If the mixer fixes it once, it will already be ready for when it appears again a few moments later when the angle returns. Believe me, this will endear you to the Dialog mixer in a big, big way. The other technique of cutting by character will quickly make the Dialog mixer very grumpy with you, as you are making his or her job bigger than it needs to be. Note: Scene 12A angle is on one channel. Scene 12B angle is on the channel below that. Scene 12C angle is on the channel below that. This affords the Dialog re-recording mixer a far easier task in the pre-dubbing process, as the unique colorization and ambient noise issues unique to the angle of the microphone in that setup are all kept to the same channel. The Dialog editor then needs to find or make ambient extensions from the material of each unique angle and extend and fill areas to prevent audio dropouts or make a presence for any ADR lines that have been cued for preparation. Note that the P effects that want to be protected for the sound effect re-recording mixer to include in the effects stem of the mix are separated and controlled on one or more channels by themselves. Here is a closer view so you can better see the amount of detail and hard work that goes into preparing the Dialog for even a brief few seconds of what appears to be a transparent and natural presence with balanced dialogue. Here is even a closer view. Note that there will absolutely be no opportunity for an audio dropout. All precautions to fade in and fade out for each cut is made so that there are no abrupt cutoffs or bump-ins. The guide track becomes the blueprint by which to check and recheck exact waveform matching to preserve absolute sync while you are working with the Dialog tracks. Another close view. No hole, no dropout should ever exist within a Dialog sequence. It will take the audience right out of the magic of the moment of becoming involved in the movie because it will draw attention to the mechanics of filmmaking. You must avoid these distractions at all costs.